Software engineers, if you've been unemployed for more than 6 months, this video is for you. A job search is difficult in general. It's even harder than average for someone who has an unemployment history of more than 6 months from their most recent position. You'll face the following problem. You're able to get interviews. You're even able to pass some of those rounds, but you're not getting final offers. And the reason is recruiters are okay with a gap and they'll bring you into the loop. Then if you perform well, you can get up to the final and even go through the final. But at decision time, the hiring managers are extremely picky. So your bottleneck here is going to be hiring manager stigma. And the situation is that in the current market, a hiring manager will put various candidates through the loop. They're going to be looking at 3 candidates who have passed all the interviews. You performed fine in the coding round. You performed fine in behavioral and system design, but so did the others. And so then it's a trivial matter of the paper. It's easy for them to throw yours in the trash. The others look a little better on paper. Okay, so how do you solve this? The way you solve this is that you frame and mitigate the stigma. You frame your 6 months plus, it could be a year, it could be 2 years that you haven't had a job. You need to frame it and explain it well. So the pitfall is an unexplained or poorly explained gap, and the solution is a well-explained gap. One is an intentional career break. This makes sense up to about 6 months. It doesn't really make sense that someone went on a multi-year career break unless you have really extenuating circumstances. A good example of an extenuating circumstance would be if you've just had a child. So that could be one. But in general, this kind of frame will solve for like 6 to 9 months or so. So you took a 6-month break and then the job search itself is taking another 3, 4, 5, 6 months. That's fine. Once you cross that year mark, this starts to work more poorly. Another one is back to school. Back to school. So if you went to either a boot camp or you went back to get your master's degree, that can explain even more time. Another one is career switching. So you may not have taken a break. This is similar to back to school, but you didn't actually need to go to school. So previously you were a back-end engineer. Now you're exploring full stack or front-end or AI engineering. The AI one is a really green flag. It's a interesting skill set in some ways. It's easy to dive deep in niches around AI and ML. And so it's understandable that that could take some time. You need to supplement your portfolio with projects to demonstrate your learning here. You can also do this with certifications. And you can also, so you're showing growth. You're growing, you're gaining skills, you're getting certifications. You took this time to grow. You can also admit a pitfall. So with one candidate that I worked with, they went to get a certification in a language that they were passionate around, only to discover that that skill set doesn't have much employer demand. And so one thing that they could do is go get a second certification in one that's employer demanding. Now I've grown 2 technical skills, so it's understandable why it took a while. Not only 2 technical skills, I'm also showing ability to experiment, redirect, curiosity, reflection, ability to adapt to employer demand. So there's a lot of positive signals in this sort of frame. So you don't need to just learn one thing. You can say, I tried learning one thing, it didn't go well, so now I'm learning a second thing. That's why it's taking a while. Okay, so this looks a lot better. 4th thing you can do is freelance. So you weren't unemployed, you are working at a contractor as a freelancer. One thing that could help here is if you file an LLC. This is optional, you don't need to do this. Or if you can get someone else to say, like actually freelance. Don't just say you were freelancing and not do it. Latterly offers bounties on some of the open source issues. So you can do open source contribution and get paid. This counts as freelancing. Okay, so, and again, there are potential green flag stories that you can tell. This doesn't need to be embarrassment. Running your own company is really hard. It's an interesting experience. You gain additional skills. As a freelancer, you're looking across the project. You have a lot of ownership. There's also an aspect of sales that can play into the software engineering role through persuasion and leadership. So you want to highlight the skills that you're gaining and then show how that transfers into software engineering. Keep it relevant. What you don't want to do is, I started a completely unrelated company, like I opened a restaurant, and then you're not able to communicate transferable skills and it looks like you just have irrelevant experience. We want to avoid that. Maintain the frame on the gap as relevant and showing growth. And the 5th thing that you can do is you can take unpaid work. So there are startups who will pay equity only. Typically, this is a terrible idea, but it's a really good way to end the gap of employment. And so this is not a place that you necessarily need to stay for years, but if you can get one of those jobs, even working there, 3 months or so, you will see a significant improvement in employer reception to your resume, and specifically hiring managers will be much more receptive. In the interview, you don't need to mention that it was unpaid. Try to show green flags. So again, just treat it as any other job. I had impact, I gained skills, but now I'm looking for something different. So why are we looking for something different? Growth and impact. And this is true because a lot of these startups that will pay equity only, you're going to have limited impact. And so it makes sense that you're there 3 to 6 months and then you either start getting paid on the job, which is good for you, or you leave. And I think this is totally understandable. I hope this helped. Follow for more.